Hey, this is Tyler Jones, and you're listening to the Element Podcast. What's happening, all my woods people? I'm coming to you from a rainy 55-ish today out here on the Olympic Peninsula. Casey, I'm actually in Forks, Washington. You've been there, right?
I have been there for just a moment. We were vampire hunting, but did not have any success.
Well, that's good, man. I know that you like to hunt wherever you can go, if you can get a cheap tag. So, is that a non-game species?
Honestly,
or?
Yeah, I think they're feral.
Okay.
No, the reason we went to Forks is that we only went there for like just a second. We just wanted to try to see the Pacific Ocean because I'd never seen the Pacific, and like I kind of barely saw it from the road. Yeah, it was lackluster.
Man,
I hear it's pretty cool.
Did y'all come in from the south?
Yeah, we came in over the Quinault River.
Yeah, you could have whipped into one of those campgrounds like the one I stayed in last night and seen the ocean real good.
Really?
Yeah, it's
cool.
It's awesome, dude. Pacific's cool, man.
Yeah. One
thing I'd say about Forks is that actually our guest from this week for the Backcountry episode, that Backcountry series that we've been doing, Jake Morrison, he is a Forks resident, or I guess an OP resident, but their business is based in Forks, Lux.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
Yeah, and speaking of Lux, I just received my Lux tent in the mail.
Aren't you Luxy?
I know, dude. I'm Luxy and I know it.
Yeah. Dang, dude, how's it look?
It looks cool. I haven't got to set it up yet because I need a good dry grassy spot, and there's not a lot of dry stuff around to put it out. I don't want to put it out in the mud. But I am going to get it erected before we go on our trip because I don't want to be the guy who's at like 13,500 feet trying to put up a tent that he's never opened before.
Yeah, well, that's actually a piece of advice that Jake gives in his episode. So if you haven't listened to that, go check it out. It released on Tuesday. So you guys have been very vocal and supportive on that mini-series that we've been doing, so I appreciate that a lot. And this was a good episode. I'm actually going by to visit their, factory. I don't know what it's going to look like because this is a pretty small town. But wherever they produce these things, it might be the back of a mobile home or something. I don't know, but I'm going to go check it out and see what everything looks like and maybe get some really good advice on which one I should buy because I'm thinking I'm probably going to end up with a Lux tent as well.
So. Yeah, they're pretty nifty, man. Especially we bought the inner tent too because Cassie's real scared of bugs apparently. Mm-hmm. But like that mini peak was pretty affordable if you just went like with the floor of the shelter, And I get that like with affordability might come like not the most durable ever, but it feels pretty tough to me. So I'm kind of excited to get to use it this week. Hopefully we do get to use it. Cassie and I are fixing to head out on vacation and do a little backpack camping if the weather cooperates. So should get a chance to put it into practice.
Dude, that'll be cool, man. Yeah. I mean, honestly, I've been thinking about this a lot on my trip because we've stayed in some hotels quite a bit just because got family and Chris and Jamie met us and stuff. So we've stayed in some hotels and that kind of thing. But, I've been thinking about it a lot. Like the more you're willing to spend, the more comfortable you can be. So really it's just like being poor is kind of a matter of being tough. You know what I mean?
Yeah, pretty much.
So, like, I look at it like, even with Chris and Jamie, they haven't done a ton of camping. So, they're just kind of like, they're talking about how like, oh, well, we could do this or do that or whatever. And I'm just like, yeah, whatever. I just can do it just this way, and it's no big deal or whatever. So, but that's kind of part of it. Like you get more and more used to it the more you do it and everything. So anyway, but yeah, the Backcountry series, go check it out. For this week, we're talking about kind of our freedoms because this will air on the 4th of July. And
that's right. Happy Independence Day, everybody.
That's right. So, I know there's a few people listening that are not from our country. But happy Independence Day for America, that's for sure. And I'm about as far as I can get from home in the continental U.S. So
that is true.
So I'm definitely like I've seen and I've felt the freedoms on this trip, man, and it's incredible to be able to be 2,500 miles from home and camping next to the beach in public land. You know what I mean? That's just awesome.
Yeah, it's cool, man. And I know that the national anthem is kind of like it's our national anthem.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's kind of self-explanatory, but isn't it God Bless America that has like all the I guess the visuals in it? You know, it's
from
like
the mountains to
from
the
the
prairies.
mountains to the prairies, to
Yep.
oceans white with foam. You know, like that's what I think of when I start thinking of like that freedom that we're talking about here, where we live in such a cool country that has so much variety and cool things to see. And it's kind of the basis of y'all's vacation that you're on, is you're trying to see as much of that as you can.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah, dude. That's been the deal, you know, and being on the road versus flying to Seattle and doing it, you know, you get to see so much, and I'm blessed to be able to take the time off to go do this, because you know, it's taken us to get to here where I'm at right here in Forks. It's taken us 17 days. So of course, we had a few days in Oregon that we stayed with my folks and stuff like that, you know. So definitely, you know, could have made it a little bit quicker, but we've done a lot of driving, man, and it takes a lot of time to get up here. So it's been exciting. I've got to come back to Texas later this week or weekend and play a show, and then I'm going to fly back into Spokane, and we're going to hit the Rockies, which I'm excited about, because this western shore has been tough this time of year. There's not a whole lot of stuff in the river, so I'm it's kind of sad, man. I was hoping to get like some cool GoPro footage just for my sake, if nothing else, to like, I have a big old 10-foot carbon rod that I was going to, you know, send into the river and get some stuff, you know, some video of salmon in the river and stuff. But I don't know that they're existent in rivers right now, hardly at all, you know.
Man, I don't know. I had a feeling when we were talking about all this that you might have a tough time out there on the far west coast. I didn't want to like put any negative thought in your mind about it, but I just know when I went, it was pretty difficult. Like, there's fish in the sound, and then everywhere else I went, it was like, man, I don't know about this, but you know, you never know. I feel like you could have like one day where you find the right river system or whatever, and it's just like boom, boom, boom. There's fish all over, but it's a different world out there. That's for sure, man. It's not like you're talking about the Rockies, where it's like, oh, here's a creek that's pretty much in a ditch along the side of the road. Let me stop and catch brookies, browns, and rainbows. You know?
Right. Yeah.
It's a lot different.
Man, it's all about timing up here, it seems like. And I think they've got, you know, they'll have like steelhead, they say, in the river all year long, and steelhead that'll sometimes get stuck in like a big pool where it's too low to get back out, you know, or whatever, on the bottom side of the pool. But like, and then they have, you know, cutthroats, sea run cutthroats, and some of them are kind of pretty much just coastal cutthroats that are resident, don't actually go, they're not anadromous, so they don't go back out to the sea. And so, like, I have a chance, I think. I just have to get on the right path here, one of these correct rivers, and I haven't had a whole lot of time to do that. But I think the next 2 days, I'm going to get to do that, and up in this whole rainforest country that I'm in. And so hopefully it'll dry up and allow me to do that. But
are you going to get to go fish that spot that I was telling you about?
Maybe when we head back to Seattle. Is that the spot? You talking about the spot you sent me a map dot?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm on the sound.
I'm going to hope that I get to do that later this week, next day or two. So, you know, hopefully that'll be something I get to do. I didn't really get to do too much ocean, much Puget Sound fishing, because Jed actually got sick the night that we arrived and threw up several times. So we were dealing with that and didn't get a whole lot of sleep and didn't get up in the morning. Rest of my crew didn't get up in the morning and had time to kind of allow me to get out there and do what I was hoping to do. So it's just the way it goes when you got family, man. You gotta sacrifice here and there. And I think when people see the videos of this trip, they'll understand that, like, this is not some like 20-year-old college kid that is spending his entire summer doing this. It's kind of more of hopefully a more realistic thing for a lot of guys that obviously maybe not can go 28 days, but like you spend a week, 9 days, whatever, out, and you can do so much cool stuff and take your family and still get fishing in and everything. So Hopefully it's that inspiration for people.
Neither of us get to put the trout bum at the end of what we put as our Instagram handles.
No,
it's more like trout family man.
Yeah, trout family guy, trout addict, but not participant all the time. So speaking of all these things that we're talking about right now, I think the kind of the concept that we're wanting to hit on today is, since it's the 4th, we were thinking that we'd each give 4. I don't know. You said something like four for the 4th or something like that, and we're going to give 4 of our favorite public land places, whether it's something that like you need to go do as a listener, or something that just means a lot to us and is sentimental. That's kind of the concept of this episode. It's going to be kind of a short one. Just because it's the 4th, you probably spending time with your families. We are for sure, and we're going to be enjoying public lands while the 4th is happening. The freedoms that we celebrate are going on while we are participating in those freedoms. So pretty neat deal. But anyway, I don't know if you want to start or you want me to, man. This is kind of your brainchild, and I'll let you choose, man.
I'll lead off. That way you can finish. How's that sound?
Okay, that sounds cool.
Take us out with a bang.
Sure.
And we're just going to go back and forth one for one here on this and kind of just go through it. And you were talking about like places that are sentimental, but places that we also believe people should visit. And this place, what I'm going to lead with, is one of those for me. I think that no matter where you are in the country, like this isn't just a Texas, like since we live in Texas, you should go to this. I think that no matter where you are in the country, you should try to make a trip at some point in your life to Padre Island National Seashore. And this isn't South Padre Island like spring break, a bunch of college kids.
Yeah.
This is a different deal. All right. Like if you could take the concept of wilderness, but also incorporate having your vehicle with you, that's pretty much what the National Seashore is. Mm-hmm. It is 60 miles of pristine coastline beach that is pretty much undeveloped from the visitor center all the way to the land cut to Port Mansfield, which is a set of jetties. And it's remoteness is a weird word, okay? Because it's something you like to talk about a lot, especially when we're talking about hunting and stuff. Like it's so remote. And sometimes you'll say remote and I'll be like, man, it's just like 3 miles from that town or whatever, or whatever the case may be. But remoteness is not always about distance from a place or civilization or whatever. Remoteness is like an ideal. It's like a concept, right? Mm-hmm. And when you take out down that beach, it is a wilderness experience, even though you're in your vehicle. Like it's you and whatever car you're in and whatever food and water you bring, and you're going to lose cell phone service pretty quick. And from there on, it's just going to be you and the ocean, and you've got to figure out how to make it and how to survive. And a lot of people thrive. And I'm not saying that this is like, some type of New World Gladiator stuff where it's like, a survival situation every time you're there, but any situation down there can turn into that, mm-hmm. where, you have a flat, your radiator hose blows off or whatever. You just went from having a good little beach stroll to like, man, this is serious business. Anyways, I say all that to say that like, it's a really cool feeling to know that you can get that, but also not have to go to the mountains to get it. Right. And that's why I think National Seashore is cool. There's only, I might be wrong about this, but I think there's only 2 national seashores. There's one, I think, one in North Carolina, possibly, mm-hmm. and Padre Island National Seashore. And Padre Island is the biggest, and it's just a cool place to be, man. There's so many fish species. It's such a unique environment because it's like one of the few places in the Gulf where the currents come pretty close up to the beach. And you've got some pretty good ocean topography underneath the surface, whereas a lot of Texas coast is real flat. So you're going to have a lot of your pelagics that push in and are reachable from the shore. I mean, people are catching, big migratory tarpon, kingfish, of course, Jack Crevalle, and then all your coastal sharks like bulls and stuff like that. But there's also like your best place to catch a tiger shark in the Gulf. Well, at least in Texas, if not the Gulf of Mexico, is on Padre Island National Seashore. I've seen a few of them. They're absolutely amazing critters. You can catch greater hammers and scalloped hammers, and there's been, I'm pretty sure, 4 recorded confirmed observances of great whites off of Padre Island National Seashore. Man. So you are not the top dog when you're out there in your kayak.
It's cool.
Off of this seashore.
Dude, that's a different concept. You know, like people, you hear, if you consume a lot of this hunting media, especially podcasts and whatever else, I guess, but you hear about not being the top dog, not being the top predator, but it's usually like, oh, you're up in the northwest and you're talking about being around grizzlies or whatever, you know. It's like a land predator, and it's different to think about, like, in the ocean, you know, being not the top predator. It's a little something different, but that's cool, man.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, like, could you assume that, I mean, when you've been down there, which I'm still waiting on you to take me, but when you've been down there, could you pretty much assume every time that, like, if you wanted to catch dinner, like, every night, that you could do it?
Yeah, I think you could, even no matter what season. Like, I've never been down there and haven't caught a fish. And here's the thing. Most things in the ocean are edible. I don't really want to have to eat hardhead catfish, but I would if I was starving, you know. But every time I've caught a slot redfish or whiting or something to eat, you know, while I'm down there. And it's like, man, there's not a lot better than catching a fish from the Gulf and eating it right away.
Oh, dude.
Like, it is so good, especially those smaller, like, surf type fish. So whether that's whiting or sometimes flounder, or especially pompano or pompano, depending on who you talk to.
Yeah.
Like a pompano that is just blackened in a skillet with butter. Oh my goodness.
Dude,
it is so good.
So we had Jesse Griffiths on a long time ago, who's a chef down in Austin. And I went to his restaurant after we had him on, Die Douai down there in Austin. And I had the pompano, his pompano dish with, like, mixed rice, vegetables and stuff. Oh my goodness. It was like, just can't beat it, man. Are there a bunch of those around, or are they seasonal, or what's the deal there?
They're always around, but they're pseudo seasonal. So, like, the best time to catch them is going to be like late winter on good, clear, warm days. They like clear water. So if it's muddy up close, they're going to be off. But if it's clear, there's usually going to be some pomps around, and then you just take a gold hook and a little piece of shrimp or a fish bite, and you got a pretty good chance. They feed on those. I don't know if you've ever seen them, but I think they're called periwinkles. They're like little bitty clams that are in the sand, and there'll be like 1,000 of them in a square foot. And
that's interesting.
They eat those a lot.
Do they have a hard mouth?
They don't. They like, I would describe them as like a baby, or like a small. I don't like it when people say baby. A small permit. Yeah. And so they're going to have, like, gummy in the front, but they got big crushers in the back.
I got you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool, dude. Man, that's
it's a cool place, man.
Yeah, I want to go, man. I've been itching at that one for the last year or so, especially.
Yeah. We need to plan it up, man. And, you know, what's funny is, like, the time of year that you and I are struggling to find something to do is the exact time to be there.
Well, let's go.
February, March, you know, it's like, what? Why? Well, I can tell you why, because it's kind of far, but it's worth it.
Yeah. Well, let's go do it next year, man.
All right, man. It's on the schedule.
Yeah. All right. Well, man, I'm going to take us to kind of the opposite end of the spectrum here, a lot higher than sea level, and probably a lot cooler. But one of my favorite places, man, and I don't know if I can even rank these all, but one of my favorites, my top 4 here that I can come up with off the dome is Rocky Mountain National Park, and been there several times. First time I went was in college when my girlfriend, who's now my wife, was playing volleyball and basketball at Northern Colorado. And on spring break, I went up there and visited her, and we went to Rocky, and it was snowing and like 22 degrees. And it was freezing cold, but man, we had so much fun, and been several times since. And the things that I love about Rocky are the fact that, like I would say to describe it is like pristine, man. Like it's just when you like go in through Estes Park and then enter into Rocky Mountain National Park, all of a sudden the landscape is just ridiculous. Like big, huge, like prolific mountain meadows, and then gigantic, just vertical mountains, man. It's just unreal. Like it'll blow your mind how big and how like from the bottom up a mountain how far it can come, and just, and the thing I love about it as well is, especially after this trip visiting several national parks that I have, is in all the other parks combined that I've visited, if you take away bison and Yellowstone, I have seen more wildlife in all those other in Rocky Mountain than all the other parks combined. I mean, I've had bear encounters there, like super close bear encounters where, walking down the trail, come around the corner and he's at 20 yards, cinnamon, black bear, and tons of elk. There's always giant elk there, which is just the coolest. Sheep, all kinds of stuff, man. And then, like in like 3 to 8-9 mile trips, man, you can visit so many just pristine, like clear, just high mountain lakes that have just the coolest, most colorful greenback cutthroats you've ever seen, that like you can catch every cast for quite a while.
Ooh,
you know what I mean? Like it's the coolest, dude. And so, and then, it rains like every afternoon somewhere in the park, but a lot of times it's pretty quick, and you usually have most of the day if you get up early for it to be dry and good weather, So and overall, like also the temperatures are just really, really awesome. It's that mountain temperature you kind of long for when it comes June or July in Texas. So anyway, that's mine, man. I don't know what else to say about it.
I can't really wait until I actually get to go. It's funny that like Colorado is such a big part of my life, but I haven't actually been to Rocky Mountain National Park. I just always end up more in that western side of the state, and I need to make it up there just because I feel like it's just part of the experience, right? I mean, we love the Rockies, and that's supposed to be set up as like the culmination of what the Rockies are supposed to be.
Yeah.
So
I think it was like the second national park. I may be wrong. Somebody's probably going to correct me on that, but I think it was. Yeah. It was a pretty early on park.
How are national parks kind of have this reputation of being real crowded? What are the crowds like at the park?
Man, I think, I don't know if I've ever been there in June, but I've been in July and August, which is for that elevation is a pretty is good weather. Should be a lot of people there, and there are at times, and there definitely are, but like. I've been to Yellowstone, and I've been to a lot, but Yellowstone was outrageous. Went to the Grand Canyon, outrageous. This is nothing like it. Like at any point, man, in the park, there's a really good road system, so it kind of spreads out the people quite a bit. And then at any point, you can pull off on a trailhead, and if you walk a mile, like you won't see anybody hardly. So
that's cool.
If you go up to one of those lakes, like. Those are destinations, so like you may see like a one or two come by, but they get it. They're quiet. They go on their own way and everything. But man, I mean, it's just it's not anything like what I saw at Grand Canyon or Yellowstone, which were like I probably won't ever go to those parks again. I might go to Yellowstone, but I would go backcountry, if I did, which is like the heart of grizzly country, from what I understand. So I might not do
exactly.
That. But you know what I mean? Like I would probably never go back and do those parks again, just because of how insane and honestly, like this sounds racist, but it's not. It just a lot of other cultures don't get their culture is different than ours, obviously. So like they'll just be running around yelling real loud, and you're kind of like, hey, we're out in the wilderness. It's kind of peaceful, like. And just people and even in Americans and stuff that are just dressed up like somebody needs to see them, like they're at a concert or something. So it's just a different experience. It's not something that I love, but Rocky's not bad, man.
Yeah, cool. Well, I'm going to take us to another national park. Smoky Mountain National Park is going to be number 2 on my list, and it's a place I know you like a lot as well. And a place that I didn't get to spend a ton of time, but I spent enough time there to where I know that like it's special. It's so much different than the Rockies. It's like ridiculous. And you think like the word mountain. Okay, so this is maybe a good analogy. So I've been doing a little bit of like Greek and Hebrew study compared to the English language for biblical purposes. And there's all these words in Greek and Hebrew that mean all these different things, and they'll get all summarized into the word God or the word love or something like that. And it's like, yeah, that means that, but it's so different. And that's how the Smokies versus the Rockies are. Like, yeah, it's the Smoky Mountains. Yeah, it's the Rocky Mountains, but they're so drastically different. The Rockies are like big, tall, jagged, snowy, kind of have a little bit of a dangerous mystique to them. And the Smokies are awesome in their own way. They're like old and so forested and so full of life. And it's just a different feel when you're there. You feel like I never get the feeling when I'm in the Rockies that I'm in a very old place. And when I'm in the Smokies, it feels like, man, this has been this way for a while. And I think that's really cool. And then whenever you get to go there and you get to catch an Ice Age relic of just the most beautiful spotted up blue halo brook trout that you've ever seen in these streams that run throughout the park, where it's like, man, I can't believe anything lives in that. And then there's actually like decent sized fish in here. It's pretty crazy place. And what's intriguing to me is that Smoky Mountain National Park, I believe, is the most visited national park in the lower 48. There was a bunch of people there, but how many people do just like the normal small loop hikes, and then the whole rest of the park hardly ever gets touched? Like, for instance, the stream we fished where I caught a lot of the brook trout that I caught, there was nobody on that stream, and I could literally hear people up on the trail 200 yards up, and they didn't even know that was going on down there. They were just up there walking down the normal footpath that everybody walks down. And not that there's anything wrong with that, but there's just so much to explore and so many cool little intricate details that if you do get off the beaten path, you can really get out there and enjoy it for what it's worth.
Yeah, dude. To kind of just elaborate on that a little bit, when I went, the one time we went to Atlanta to visit the World Aquarium there, which is awesome, by the way. So kind of a little extra plug there. And then went north. So we actually stayed on the North Carolina side of the park, and there was hardly anybody over there, dude. It was awesome, man. Like you said, the old feeling was there. Like when we came into basically where we were going to park our car and the trailhead was, we went through this old little like meadow, like valley community or whatever that nobody lived in anymore, but there was like an old church and a hay barn there and a cemetery like a few hundred yards off the road there, and there was elk in the meadow and turkeys, and like it just had this old like settler mystique like you might have been talking about. And then we got to the trail, kind of the trailhead where we were going to park, and we went less than a mile, and we camped for 3 days, and we camped right on the trail. And I fished that little creek for basically 2 days, and we saw one other group of people come by. And I mean,
that's cool.
That's kind of what you're saying is like once you get a little bit off the path, there's not anybody, and especially you talk about fishing that east side or staying on that east side of the park, I mean.
Oh, yeah. We went into the west side, which is kind of like Gatlinburg is kind of like the entrance to Smoky Mountain National Park.
It's like Vegas.
If you can, straight up, what a great way to put it. It's like straight up so like Americanized, and
it is.
Like for some reason, like pancake houses are a big deal there. Like it's not like there's dinner places, there's breakfast places, which I don't even understand that. But like Gatlinburg is ridiculous. If you can stay out of there, do it.
Yeah.
I mean, the fly shop there is really cool. I'm sure that's a great town that has great people that live there, but it's definitely super touristy. Like it was like people. We tried to drive through, and people were giving us weird looks, like, "Why are you bringing a car in here? This street's for us to walk on." So
Yeah.
Get through that and go to like the wild part of the park, and you'll have a good experience.
Yeah, dude, it's cool, man. That's a good one. I didn't even think about that one, which I'm glad I didn't, so that you could use it, because you probably spent a little more time. I was really young when I did that one and didn't really know a whole lot about anything other than that I was catching some wild brookies, so.
Yeah.
But I guess that kind of brings me, I'll go ahead and take us to the opposite side of the U.S., and this is one I've recently visited, but Redwoods National and State Parks is... I talked about it in the last episode, so I won't go too much into it, but incredible, dude. I mean, you have to go see it. There's a lot of people for sure, but I think I mentioned this in the podcast, but the campground we stayed in was, what was it? I'll have to come back with that later on. I said it in the last episode, I believe, but it was in the Del Norte State Park, I believe, and so. Stayed in this campground, and it was like the coolest, man. There was just huge stumps from redwoods that had been logged like maybe 100 years ago. I don't know how long, but then like several, just tons of big redwoods still in there. And the stumps and all the trees and the ferns and everything, like you could be camping 10 feet from the next campsite and you didn't even know there was people there. And it was just so quiet. Like the moss was eating up all the sound and everything. I mean, you couldn't.
Yeah.
I mean, there was so many campsites in there and you couldn't hear anybody hardly. And it was right on a creek. I caught a little fish out of that creek when I fished the next morning. And just really, actually, I caught two tiny, tiny little fish. I mean, like looked like they should have been. I mean, I'm guessing they were wild, but they should have been like in the hatchery. They were that small, And anyway, it was just really incredible. And then it got to obviously see the actual redwoods, the old growth timber redwoods in the park and stuff. And it will just blow your mind. Like you just can't hardly imagine how big those trees are. And we just walked around and enjoyed that for a long time. And what's also cool, the big plus, is like it would be worth going just for that. But, I mean, in 10 minutes from just about anywhere in the parks there, like 10, 15 minutes, you can be on the Pacific coast watching seals and tide pooling and just, enjoying black sand beaches and seeing literally the coolest rocks that you've ever seen, dude. Like, I don't know if this is I'm not going to say where I did this. I think it's legal. We did a lot of it on a private beach, so I would say so. But I picked up so many cool rocks. I probably picked up like 10 or 15 rocks, man, that are just like, I've never seen one like that, So
yeah, that's neat.
I'm kind of, that's what I like to do, man. I have rocks from all over wherever I go. It seems like I'll at least pick one or two up. So, but dude, it's awesome, man. And like I said, just really quiet. That kind of forest just seems to eat up all the sound. So like even if you're hanging out in touristy locations, like you can feel pretty just peaceful and in your own mind,
Yeah,
so,
for sure.
Unless a gnome jumps out and attacks you.
Yeah. How old do those trees get, or like what's the oldest those trees are?
There may have been some on the earth when Jesus walked the earth, so 2,000 years.
That's pretty long time ago. Yeah. That's crazy.
I mean, obviously there was redwoods, I would think, on the earth, but like some of them may still be standing, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So
yeah. That's nuts, man.
Yeah. So there was a bunch of them that had been like that had fallen over on the pass, and the Forest Service just comes in there and like cuts just enough of a path, like a path wide basically. So you have this huge stump on both sides, or not stump but log, and you can't even count the rings, man. It's just crazy.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, I also do the rock collection thing. And one of the coolest places to actually do that is the shores of Lake Superior. There's like, since it's like a glacial lake and stuff, it's been there for a long time. It's known for like its agates, which is like a little shiny rock or whatever. It's a pretty cool spot, but that's not exactly the spot that's my next one, but it's close, and it has to do with it, and that's the Boundary Waters canoe area. And I have a little caveat for the Boundary Waters.
Okay.
I have been there but I haven't experienced it for what it is yet. So I really need to go back. But I've been there enough. I was young. I was, in middle school when I was there, but I still was like enjoying it. It is a pretty cool place, man. And I think it's way bigger than what I really got to see. Just the amount of water and the amount of life in all that water up there is crazy. Like, crystal clear, and usually crystal clear means like there's not a lot of stuff living, and that's not really how it is, man. There's like yellow perch and sunfish and pike and walleye and crawfish like everywhere in all of these little lakes. And it doesn't matter where you're at, you can stop, like even in the car, and fish the lake if there's access to it and catch fish. And then there's like moose, and there's whitetail, and there's wolves, and there's bears, and it's like a really interesting place because you just don't think of like a lot of those things existing where there aren't mountains. And it's the exact opposite of mountains. It's a swamp, right? And I really want to be able to go back and do it out of a boat like you're supposed to. And the whole thing, like, it's pretty much the filter that goes into Lake Superior, right? And it's a bunch of glacial I don't really understand the geology completely, but from what I think I know is that you have a whole bunch of these glacial pools and lakes, and they're really all one big lake, and they're all connected via like limestone seepage to where it's kind of like the Everglades North, where it's all kind of running towards Lake Superior. And it's just so cool when you start looking at like we were talking about glaciers a while ago with Smoky Mountain National Park, but how glaciers have kind of shaped that whole side of the country to be like, there's areas where they didn't hit, and it looks so much different than areas where they did hit, right? That's like the driftless area and stuff. But I just think that it's a pretty neat spot, especially when you start talking about how unique that environment is compared to like more mountainous areas.
Man, I would love to go there too, man. So whenever you get the real itch to do it, let me know. But that's
I will.
That's cool. It's a place I've never. I guess I've been to Lake Michigan, so somewhat in that area, but pretty far away still. And that's just like something I've never been able to see and would love to do. I guess a question I have, and of course I'm always turning this into fishing, but like can you take a piece of worm, throw it on a small hook, and throw it down there and catch something to eat, like just pretty much no doubt, yellow perch or whatever it is?
Yeah, that's the way I was doing it, because like there's this blissful innocence of being young to where like you're real happy to just use a worm and a hook and catch fish, right? Like now we're like, I want to do it on a fly that I tied or whatever, however we can make it more snooty, we do. And but back then, that's what I was literally doing, is buying some earthworms, taking a brim hook and throwing it down there and seeing what would eat it. And it was smallmouth, largemouth, bluegill, and then a bunch of yellow perch. I remember, and I don't have pictures of all this, right? Because this is back in like when you had like 24 exposures on a throwaway. But I do remember I caught a yellow perch that was like the size of my hand when I was that age. Not now, but like, you're talking like probably, a perch that is a good 6 or 7 inches long, like that would have been an eater if I didn't eat him. But that would be like definitely something to be like, man, let's eat that thing, throw it in some grease and see what's up. Yeah.
Man, that sounds good. That's like just so foreign to me, the whole like northern Yankee style of fishing where you're, catching walleyes and smallmouths, and that kind of thing.
Oh yeah, dude. They like some of the baits they use. It's like, man, that just looks like a hook. Like some of their jigs and stuff. It's like, fish eat that? What? I don't know. But what else is cool is what's his name? Lucas Leaf, I think it's a guy we met while we were in Minnesota for TRCP. And he's big time in the Boundary Water stuff, and I follow him on social media, and they do a lot of grouse hunting in the Boundary Waters. So they'll I don't really understand it, but somehow or another they're in a canoe and then they go shoot grouse and they canoe further. And I just don't ever think about upland hunting and being in a canoe being in the same, area.
Let me take my fine double barrel shotgun up here.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool. I don't know. I just feel like there's a lot more. There's more layers to that onion than what I've peeled so far.
Yeah, it's cool, man. That'd be fun to go do, man. I would love to do it. It's a long ways from home, but it would be awesome.
Yeah.
Well, my third place here, I guess. This is kind of, I guess, it's like a place that I've been, but I guess this is kind of like one of those things. It's an inspiration for other listeners or whatever maybe that might hear this to go do something similar. But I went to British Columbia in 2016 and 17, videoed a sheep hunt both years, and really, like, I guess my whole concept here is like north of our border here in the Continental. I mean, there's so much public land, like it's just ridiculous. All the royal land in Canada, and then Alaska obviously is, pretty similar in regards to public land percentage and everything, I guess. So, but man, it's just such a different country. It's so cool. I mean, even here where I'm at in Washington, like we were eating salmon berries this morning. I've never seen them, and so I had to look them up. They were all over around our campsite.
That's just like a slang word for salmon eggs, like Dude, salmon berries.
Well, they look like salmon eggs. They're like.
Do they really?
Yeah, they're kind of big. They look like a big raspberry with the big individual, lobes or whatever you want to call them. But they're any shade from like yellow to like deep red, and any shade in between. So like some pink, some orange, that kind of thing. And so, like, they look like different shades of salmon eggs, kind of, or whatever. So, I think that's kind of where they get their name from the research I did, real briefly. But, we were eating them. They weren't that great. They were like, they were kind of like a bad blackberry, or whatever.
Yeah.
They were good enough that, like, I'll sit there and forage them for a while. But they all had some sort of kind of bitter to them, which it was kind of a good bitter, if you kind of can imagine that, I guess, but anyway, that's like where I was at in British Columbia. It was blueberries, it was huckleberries, Saskatoon berries, I think is what they were called. We were just, you just walk along there everywhere. You just pull up raspberries, wild raspberries, and you could just eat at any point, and that's a cool thing that I've never gotten to do in Texas. You have a couple week window of blackberries, and that's about it. And not to mention like that whole, like we talked about earlier, like not being the biggest thing in the woods, grizzlies in that area, and I got to see those, and I got to find caribou sheds, and just the whole experience, man. It's just crazy. It's just something you need to go do. Get north of the border, whether it's Alaska or Canada or whatever, and go see some interesting, cool stuff, some glaciers, some bull trout, whatever it might be.
Yeah, that's cool, man. And that's something I haven't never got to do. And I've got a great uncle in Alaska that says anytime. And I'm like, oh, why have I not taken him up on that yet, man? It's got to be cool. Yeah. It's got to be cool. Don't they call it Crown Land? Isn't that what they call that?
Yeah, I think there's several different names for it, but Crown Land I think is correct too. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yep. Interesting. Anyway,
that's a cool place, man. That's cool. Well, you've kind of gone to a lot more like places than I have. I feel like so some of mine are kind of more centrally located, which I don't appreciate them any less, but. I'm going to kind of bring us back down into Colorado, of course, because it's just a place that I love, and I'm actually going there tomorrow. If you're listening to this on Thursday, I'll be headed on. Well, we won't get there till Saturday, but and I'm actually going to visit this place again on our trip. It's a place that you and I went to together, and that is the Black Canyon of the Gunnison.
Yes,
man. Trout fishing aside, if you can take that out of it, it's still one of the cooler places that I've been to in the lower 48.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're talking about, I haven't been to the Grand Canyon, so I don't know. Okay. But it seems kind of gradual down to the bottom. The Black Canyon, from what I've seen from all sides, is a sheer cliff that's like 800 to 1,200 foot straight down. all the way around. It is absolutely crazy to see what that canyon looks like and is. And I can't imagine being like either a Native American or one of the first settlers to head that direction, and then you're like going across, like oak brush flats or whatever, and then all of a sudden it's like, whoa, the bottom fell out. It's like it is crazy, and it's so cool to know that like there's a beautiful crystal clear blue river running down through the bottom of it that is full of some of the most beautiful and giant hungry trout that you'll ever encounter. And I hope that I will get there around the time that those trout are looking up. We might be getting there a little bit late, later than you and I were there, but we're also going to be visiting the part you can drive to, which is a lot further up the canyon, so maybe it'll be a couple days late. I do know that I saw that Jay Scott is at the gorge part, which is like still way further downriver, and it's pretty in its own right. But and he's catching fish on salmon flies right now down there. Yeah. So it has started. Yeah. They're working their way up.
Did you see? I tagged you in that. I don't know. You might have seen it before, but yeah,
I did. Well, I didn't see his post, but I saw his stories. But I saw he actually tagged me twice, so I appreciate that.
Oh, did I? Good deal.
It double posted for some reason.
Well,
but you want to make sure I see it.
Dude, I've been thinking the whole time, the whole like Native American European settler thing, like on this trip, I've been thinking the whole time, like, man, what would you do if you ran up on that? Just even like just yesterday, like going around the Puget Sound, like, man. What happens when you are just coming along and then all of a sudden you had this gigantic like inlet to navigate around and several rivers coming out of it before you can, like, how did they end up getting to the Olympic Peninsula, It's just crazy.
I don't know, man. It's nuts. Just we all, no matter where you go, you have a preconceived notion of what it's going to be like because we live in such a, quote, informed society, right? So like last night, Cassie and I were planning on doing some backcountry camping while we're in Colorado, and she is looking at YouTube videos and stuff of the place we're going to go. Like she hasn't even like really spent much time in the mountains, but she already has an idea of what this is going to be like before we ever go. And that like mystery is, I kind of miss it. Yeah, it's probably something we talk about a lot on the show throughout the years, but like the idea of going somewhere and not having a clue what you're going to encounter is pretty cool, man.
Oh, it's
pretty
neat
thing.
Yeah.
But there's also a cool part about where we live now to where, like, hey, I need to bring this, and this so that it's an enjoyable experience.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of the nice part of being informed. Like I know where we're going. It's like, hey, you probably need to dress pretty warm, even though it's summertime, or whatever, and I don't know. I guess there's a give and take to both of it, but anyways, it would be pretty cool to be Meriwether Lewis and, get to see Devil's Tower for the first time or whatever, like that would be, I don't even know if he did or not, but I'm just saying, right. Like that as an example, it'd be pretty cool to be like the first white guy to see that and be like, whoa, I didn't know that was here,
Dude, I've tried hard not to look at I try not to look at Google Images much when I'm going somewhere, like I'll do some research. I'll try to figure out what the weather's going to be like, that kind of thing. But I try to stay away from the images as much as possible because I do love that surprise of, like I love not knowing how big a redwood is before I actually get to see it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's cool. That's a cool concept, man. Yeah. And for those of you who are wanting to like visit some of this stuff, so let's take the Black Canyon. I didn't do a great job of explaining it. Tyler and I took a trip and did that. I guess that was 17. Is that right? 2017?
Yeah, I think that's right.
We went to Black Canyon and hiked down through a very dangerous place, especially when you have like 70 or 80 pounds on your back. But if you're going to just go with a little light backpack, I think most people who are in decent shape could do it. But it's also family accessible, and that's what we're doing this time. So there's a thing called the East Portal or the South Portal, depending on who you're talking to. You come in through Montrose, and you can actually drive to the bottom of Black Canyon and camp down there. So not to like tell you about something that's really cool and then make you think it's not accessible, because it is something you can do with your family and go and enjoy.
Yeah, for sure. And if you do like seeing things and how they look before, or if you may not even want to go there, but you want to see it, we got the video posted. It's the Rock Trolls video. It's one of my favorite videos films I've ever put together. we spent a lot of hard time putting in the effort just to get the camera gear down to the canyon from if nothing else. And you can see some time lapses, and you can see how narrow the canyon is in those time lapses at night and such. So pretty cool.
Like we were standing at the base, and I didn't try this, but I know I could have. We were standing at the base of one of the cliff faces that goes straight up, and I know I could have taken a rock and hit the other one with it. Chunked it across the river and hit the other cliff face.
Dude, it's crazy.
Like it's like 100 foot by 1,100 foot. It's just unreal.
Yeah, it is, man. Well, I'm gonna bring us back home for the last one, and this one's a sentimental one for me, more than anything, and maybe not super amazing to a lot of people, but my dad, they left Oregon where we were seeing gray whales and seals and eating fresh halibut and all kinds of salmon and whatever else, and flew back home. And when they got back, he sent me a picture from his back porch, which he lives at the fishing lodge there on Lake Fork that he runs. And anyway, he sent a picture, and he was like, "Yeah, it's not the Pacific, but it's not a bad view." And anyway, it was a good sunset on Lake Fork, and it's just like, that's, I've been lucky to grow up there, have public access and private access, obviously, but, I've launched public boat ramps plenty of times, hunted ducks and all kinds of fish on the public waters there at Lake Fork, Texas, and been able to hunt some extremely big bass and catch one or two as well. And, I don't know, just one of the coolest places. Like, I still can't hardly, I just haven't seen many sunsets that are better than the ones I've seen at Lake Fork, because I've been there a lot, obviously, but it's just, they're just great, man. Nothing like a lake sunset, and especially on a lake that means so much, that I grew up on and spent so much time on. And just, I think it's a good thing to have. It's awesome that we've been able to explain these big, huge national and federal pieces of public that are incredible sites and stuff. But at the end of the day, like, whoever's listening to this, you probably have some public land within a few miles of you that you could go enjoy and really find your way and have some good memories on, So that's kind of where I'm leaving us with this last one.
Yeah, I like it, man. I mean, that's definitely a piece of public that you and I have both enjoyed many, many times in our lives. Yeah. And if you ever do want to come experience Lake Fork, I think you should. But just know that if you come down here and your goal is to catch a 10-pounder, you might not have a great trip. But if you come down trying to have a great experience and you want to catch some fish, it's a great place to be. Yeah. And the cool thing about Lake Fork is you never know. It's like hunting in the Gila or having an Iowa tag. You never know what's going to step out or what's going to hit your line. It might be the next world record, and that's what makes Fork cool, man.
Yeah, absolutely, dude.
Amongst other things, of course.
Yeah, for sure. That's the thing, man. It's just being in a place where you never know it could happen, So yeah, it's just like you said, deer hunting, Kansas or Iowa or whatever it might be, like especially in Kansas, you probably not going to see that many deer, but you might see a big one. So who knows? So it's the same thing with Lake Fork, and over the years, man, I've just been able to see those guys come in and bring big fish in, and their never know turned into it actually happened, and there's a lot of joy in that. So pretty cool. But anyway, I guess it's going to wrap us up. Of course, we took longer than we thought we would, but we got her done.
It's one of the cool things about the freedom of living in this country is that you get to do what you want to do with so few stipulations, of course. But
and that's what that's kind of the point of this, man, is go do it. Never has it been more accessible, cheaper to travel, more mobile as far as business goes. So go do it, man, and take a few days and away from work. And if you need to work while you're on the trip, there's a way to do it. There's Wi-Fi everywhere, So
yeah, that's right, man. And me, like I really try to do a great job, or whatever. I try to not put patriotism in place of like my spirituality. I try to keep them separate, right? But there is something to be said about how cool it is, how blessed we are as a people to live in a country where we do have all of these opportunities, right? And I actually did a lesson last Sunday on blessings and what those are like and what they are. And we tend to think so much about blessings as being a physical thing, like materialistic blessings, money, cars, whatever it might be, stuff. But there's so many more things to that. And the blessing of having freedom and living in a place where people have laid the groundwork for you to be able to just pursue what you want to in life. That's a pretty cool thing to have in this earthly life that we have. So don't take it for granted. And when you're out enjoying the stuff that we're talking about, be thankful to those who have made that possible for you, and be thankful for our Creator for making the cool places we get to go and experience.
Yep. Man, that's a good final conclusion there, man. I guess mine's going to be a lot different, but I would say that I just want to say thanks. I guess you could say this is a blessing that people have listened and purchased some swag or some gear online of ours, and so that means a lot to us. Thanks for ordering that stuff, and hopefully we'll get that as soon as we can, whether I have to get back to get you a few items or not, or Casey can get it done, whatever, but we'll get you it as soon as possible, and we appreciate those orders.
If you want to bestow blessings upon us a little bit more in some ways, you can go to iTunes and leave us a review, because that helps us out a ton as well. So please keep that up, guys. We've had a lot of them here lately, and it's cool to hear what you like, what you don't like, and all that stuff. So include that in a review, and go over there and give us 5 stars. Yeah,
and we're talking about doing a giveaway maybe of some sort, kind of a big giveaway, because we're coming up on this. I don't know. I hadn't checked it in the last couple of days, but we are really close to 100,000 downloads all time on this.
We might be there by the time this podcast launches.
Woo! So
how about that?
That's a big deal, and most of those have come in this calendar year, and we actually are on pace to hit 100,000 from January this year to December this year. So that's a big deal, man. Thank y'all for listening. It means a lot to us, and because we put a lot of effort into this, and so I appreciate that you guys would listen and think that what we're doing is cool. So anyway, we're thinking about doing a giveaway sometime, and we're not exactly sure how we're going to put it together. If you have any ideas, feel free to let us know, outside of just give me something, but we're going to do something. So yeah, the reviews are probably going to be something that has a giveaway done. So feel free to step that up and put whatever you like on there. So anything else, Casey?
Yep. That's all I got, man.
All right, man. Well, it's raining again, so
perfect.
I think I'm going to go find Lux's headquarters and go talk to Jake if he's there, and maybe Dustin, and we're going to hopefully I can get some fishing information, man. That's what I'm looking for more than anything. So if I can find where the fish are biting and it stops raining, that's what I'm going to be doing the next couple of days. So I'll check back in with you guys as soon as I can, and hopefully start releasing some of these videos from earlier this trip sometime soon. So anyway.
Cool. Well, I'm going to go paint a door. So.
All right. Sounds good. Well, I guess that's your element. Hopefully everybody else will remember that this is their element.
Living it.